All right, we are live. Let me know where you're watching this from, where you're connecting. Put it in the chat. Great to have you with me. Today, we're going to address the biggest obstacle that's keeping you from reaching your full potential. And I'm going to show you just three simple steps. If you learn and implement, you'll be able to reach your true potential. And I'll start with a story, true story. I had a conversation with a sales rep. We'll call him Sam. And as I was communicating with him, I sensed there was a problem. He was a good rep, but just a good rep. He'd been in sales for about 12 years, not great. And there was something that was keeping him back. Now, if you're not in sales, it doesn't matter. These three simple steps will apply to whatever you do if you follow and you implement them consistently. He was good enough to keep his job, good enough to avoid hard conversations, good enough to stay invisible. But good enough, tell me if you can relate to this, good enough was eating him alive. I realized his kryptonite, the kryptonite that was keeping him stuck. And so I asked him one question. Sam, tell me about your greatest fear. Long pause. And he came back. He goes, you know what? I think I'm an imposter and I'm going to be found out. How many of us think this way? I've had this problem. I struggle with it. We all struggle with imposter syndrome. Now, check this out. This is when I took him through a simple exercise. I call it the 3D process. These are the three simple steps to transform your thought process so you think differently. In Romans 12:2, it says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Now, if you don't believe in God, you can still use this. I'm just giving you some context that doing this will be transformative. Now, anytime you do something for the first time, does it usually work well? No. But if you stay at it, reach out to me if you want some coaching on this. I'd be happy to chat with you. If you stay at it and work through these three dimensions, it's going to take you from mediocrity to reaching your full potential and having a life that is fulfilled and meaningful. So the three steps or 3D process I will take you through is first and foremost 3 dimensions. So we're looking at your thought process from 360 degrees. So 3 dimensions, 360 degrees, so you get a complete view. The problem is many times we have a thought and we have a fear, and we're just looking at it based on our emotions. And your brain will lie to you most of the time. And we get caught up with facing the emotions and fighting the emotions with emotions. That is a losing battle. Okay. The first dimension is the story. So as I was working with Sam, I said, Sam, what's the story you are telling yourself? And we went back and forth a little bit. So he's like, story, what do you mean? I mean, what are you telling yourself that you come up with? You are an imposter and you may be found out. And so again, a long pause. And then Sam came back probably about 30, 35 seconds later. And he said that I'm not capable. Have you ever felt that way? That someone's going to figure it out and realize I don't belong here. Ouch. I nodded and I said, got it. Now, I'm speaking to Sam, and I said, Sam, we are going to destroy that narrative with something it can't survive ever. So dimension number 2, this is the second step. is the facts. So the story is based on emotion. Again, when we get caught up in emotion, it distorts our perspective and we see things through the wrong lens. We need the truth because all transformation begins with the truth. So I said, Sam, strip away all the emotion. What are the cold, hard facts? And we went back and forth a little bit. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, how long have you been in sales? How many people have you served? And he said, oh, well, I've been in sales for 12 years. I've served over thousands of clients. And I said, well, what have those clients said about you for the most part? Because we all have negative feedback and negative reviews. He said, well, they've been happy. They've been very happy overall. And I turned to his boss, and I already knew this before asking the question. And I said, what do you say, asking his boss, what do you say about Sam? Because I know he's been with you now for a year. What would you say to him? And he said, Sam does an amazing job. I get compliments all the time from our customers and prospects consistently. I looked at Sam. I said, Sam, do you see what's going on here? The story you've been telling yourself, this is so important. Listen, the story you've been telling yourself, because I guarantee this is going to be the same for you. The story you are telling yourself is 180-degree opposite of the truth. The facts just killed your fiction. And Sam said, oh, out loud. It was like, aha, oh, I get it. That oh from Sam, that was the sound of his belief system cracking. And this is a false belief system. This is so important as you're working through this, because if you don't dismantle the false belief system that you're living in, then you're never going to be able to realize the truth and live in the truth and become who God created you to be. Now, the third dimension is future self. I said, Sam, close your eyes and I want you to see yourself. And for everyone out there, this is the same exercise for you. Close your eyes and I want you to see yourself 15 years from now. You've reached your full potential. You're the man you know that you really can be. Really see him. Smell the smells. See the things around you, where you're living, what you're doing now, your family, the friends in your life. I really want you to take some time to think through that and meditate on that. And about 30 seconds later, he said, got it. Now, let that version, your future self, let that version of you speak to your present self, the man sitting here today. What does your future self say 15 years from now? You have a clear picture of him. You've accomplished the things that you never thought possible. You have the family, the friends, the dreams that you only thought or imagined. You're there. What does your future self say to yourself in this situation, as far as imposter, being found out, you don't have enough, you don't have what it takes? What does he say to you? Sam's tone changed. And it went from kind of a, I wouldn't say whimpering tone, but it was very weak tone. I'm not enough. It wasn't that bad, but it was definitely weak. And he was communicating from his weakness. Now he was communicating from his strength based on what his future self was speaking to him today. His future self was speaking life into him. And so check this out. His future self said this to him. He said, those challenges are here to grow you. Don't let fear, listen to this, take this in. Do not let fear run the show. You are more capable than you can ever think or imagine. and his tone was very confident. It was like two different people. It was prior Sam, now future Sam. And he was starting to step into his identity in that kryptonite that was fear, that was sucking all the good things out of his life, that was keeping him from reaching his potential, was finally losing his power. You could see it in his body language. And by the way, influence in communication, 55% of influence in communication is our body language. 38% is tone, and 7% is words. So check this out. Sam went through the exercise, and yes, we had some one-on-one since then, and we worked through the exercise. It's not like you just hear it and then do it, and then, whoa, the clouds separate, the sun comes down, and you are there. There's a process you need to go through. And sometimes I've gone through this, sometimes 10, 12, 15 times a day, because it's a fear that's been rooted, deeply rooted from my past, where there's shame and whatnot. And let me tell you something so important. If you don't break the chains of the past, free yourself from that prison, that past is always going to keep you stuck, imprisoned, shackled in the present, in the presence, in the present. So this is a 3-step process to break those shackles and free you from the cage of shame, of loss, whatever it is that you went through. When I was 9, my dad disappeared, and that jacked with my mind because I thought, I'm not worthy. My dad doesn't want me. And so this is a process that I went through many times, and I realized it's not about who I am. That's about who he is. What he did does not define me. This goes into a much deeper model that I have called the David framework based on Psalms. I'd be happy to talk with you about it, but I don't want to go down a rabbit trail. Sometimes I have a tendency to do this. So back to Sam. 3 months later, just 3 months later, Sam broke every company record, and this company had been in business for several years, every sales record in just 3 months. Not because he got a new script or new tactics or learned how to close, because he stopped believing the story that was never true. And this is the same for you. Stop believing the lies, bring in the truth, and the truth will disperse, shatter those lies, so you can begin to live and be the person that God created you to be. But remember, you have to bring your future self into the situation. You really need to see your future self, smell the smells, see the scenery, understand the people that are around you. If you do this, you can shift, because this is the biggest obstacle right here, right here. If you are self-aware of what the story is, and that's the first gap that many people struggle with. I did for many years. I was not aware of the story I was telling myself. And I'd hear things like Tony Robbins, you are where you are because of the story you are telling yourself. I'm like, what story am I telling myself? If you sense a fear, and if you're in a place of mediocrity, I can almost guarantee it, 99.9999% of the time, there's a fear from something from your past that's keeping you stuck because it has taken up permanent residence in your mind. You need to bring the truth in, the facts. And if you bring the facts in, you will most likely find that story is a lie. And with the truth, you will find transformation, because all transformation begins with the truth. Then you bring your future self in to speak life into you, and you start living based on who you were created to be. If you do this, your life will change. You'll be able to do things you never thought possible. You'll be able to accomplish goals that you keep putting off and saying you're going to do, but you don't. Because the biggest battle is up here. And here's 3 simple steps that if you implement them consistently, that you'll no longer live in mediocrity or live beneath the person that you were meant to be. You'll become who you were created to be. If you want more information about this, or if you want your help with your sales team, send me a DM and just put sales or just mindset. If you want to shift how you go about life and start living a fulfilled life with meaning and becoming all that you were created to be, send me a DM.